All right, let's get right into it. When we watch a politician give a big speech, we're not just listening to someone talk. No, not at all. We're actually watching a highly trained performer, a real master in the ancient art of rhetoric, where literally every single word, every pause, is designed for maximum impact. The Roman statesman Cicero absolutely nailed it 2,000 years ago. This isn't just about giving a good speech, you see. It's about making the impossible seem totally possible. The stakes are incredibly high, and the tools they use, they're timeless. So that's the big question, isn't it? How do they actually turn words into votes, into policies, into real power? Well, it's not magic. It's a playbook full of specific, learnable techniques. And today, we're going to tear that playbook wide open. Okay, first things first. Before any of the fancy tricks or linguistic fireworks, every powerful speech is built on a rock-solid foundation. And it all, and I mean all, starts with the core message. Just take a second and let that number sink in. 4,000. That is more than one speech a day, every single day, for 8 straight years. You don't get to be elite at this by accident. That kind of mastery is forged through absolutely relentless practice. The second ingredient is having one single, crystal clear message that just cuts through all the noise. Right? It has to be something that sticks in your brain for years. Each of these phrases boils down a massive, complex platform into a powerful, unforgettable idea. And they wrap that message in a structure that's been proven to work. This one, the Monroe motivated sequence, is an absolute classic. It takes the audience on a journey that's both logical and emotional. It goes like this. Here's what's wrong. Here's my fix. Now just imagine how great it's going to be, and here's what you need to do to make it happen. Simple but powerful. All right, so a clear message in a solid structure. That's kind of like the skeleton of the speech. That the heart, the engine, the thing that actually gets people to move, well, that's emotion. And that's the next piece of this puzzle. This right here is the core of their whole strategy. See, facts force us to stop and think, to use our logical brain. But emotions, they just bypass all of that. They're like a lightning strike. They connect instantly, and they are the real engine that moves people to action. So how do they trigger these emotions so dang efficiently? One of their go-to tools is something called totemic words. Think of these as emotional shortcuts. Look, a speaker doesn't need to give you a whole lecture on the philosophy behind social justice or liberty. Nope, they just have to say the word. It instantly signals their entire value system and triggers a powerful pre-existing emotional response in anyone who identifies with that idea. It's incredibly efficient. And now we get to the really fun stuff. These are the specific linguistic devices, the secret weapons that give speeches their rhythm, their power, and that make them so memorable. Ever wonder why things in speeches always seem to come in threes? Well, it's because it works. Our brains are just wired to love the pattern. A list of 3 feels complete, it feels balanced, and it feels final. It's one of the most reliable ways to make a point stick. And, you guessed it, get a huge round of applause. Just listen to that rhythm. A family in grief, a country in mourning, a world in shock. You can feel how it builds. That escalating 3-part structure creates this powerful sense of importance. It just sounds right to our ears. Another incredibly effective tool is contrast. You put 2 opposite ideas right next to each other, and boom, you've created a really stark choice. It simplifies a complex issue into a very clear, not this, but that. It forces the audience to pick a side. And this is probably the most famous example in all of political history. The structure is so simple, but the effect is just profound. It completely flips the listener's perspective in one single perfectly balanced sentence. Amazing. An opera is all about building momentum. It's like a wave. By repeating the opening words of a phrase over and over, you create this powerful rolling cadence that just builds and builds, pulling the audience right in with every repetition. You can just feel the power in Martin Luther King Jr.'s words here. That repetition of "a man dies when" acts like a drumbeat, driving the point home with this escalating moral force. It's absolutely unforgettable. Okay, so giving a prepared speech is one thing, but the real test, the true mark of a master communicator, is how they handle the intense pressure of tough, unexpected questions. This is where they have to control the narrative. So here's the secret. A lot of the time, they don't answer the question at all. they use a technique called bridging. They'll acknowledge the question, maybe say something like, that's a very important point, and then bam, they use a transition to pivot right back to their pre-planned message. They're not answering your question, they're answering the question they wish you had asked. In an alive debate, this goes a step further. The absolute goal is to never, ever be on the defensive. The second you start defending your position, you're on your opponent's turf and you're losing. The elite tactic is to immediately counterattack and turn that pressure right back around on them. Which brings us to our final section, the darker side of all this. When does powerful persuasion cross that fuzzy line into outright manipulation? And maybe more importantly, why does it work so often?
So, why does this stuff work so well on us? Well, it's not just one thing. It's really a combination of a strange quirk in how our brains are wired, a social assumption that we all tend to make, and just the simple, messy reality of our busy lives. The illusory truth effect is this fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying cognitive bias we all have. When we hear something over and over and over again, our brain finds it easier to process, and then we mistake that ease of processing for truth. That's why repeating a simple slogan endlessly is so effective. It literally starts to feel true, no matter what the facts say. So that leaves us with a final big question. Now that you can spot these techniques, from the three-part list to the illusory truth effect, you'll start seeing them everywhere. But where does skillful communication end and dishonest manipulation begin? That line isn't always so clear, and ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide.